We got a major Eagles move incoming, and P.S., I hate it, as the ongoing search for the next offensive coordinator is bringing more of a sense of disappointment and fear within the Eagles organization, and there may not be a quick fix to the problems on the offensive side of the ball in Philadelphia. I'll break all of this down here and more on another edition of Eagles Digest. What's going on, guys? Alex Brooks back here with another episode of Eagles Digest to break all of this down, all of the frustration that we are feeling as Philadelphia Eagles fans as this organization is trying to find their next offensive coordinator, and it really doesn't seem like the Eagles are going to find a real quick fix that can help them get back to championship glory in 2026. But before we get into all of this, here's a word from our sponsor. Before we get into all the news today, this video is brought to you by Kalshi. When you download Kalshi using the link below and enter the code DIGESTNFL, you'll get $20 when you trade your first $100. Kalshi is the largest prediction market in the United States. On their platform, you can trade yes or no on real-life events, whether it's sports, elections, news, and pretty much everything that you can think of. And it is live in all 50 states, including Philadelphia. For sports fans, you can trade on game outcomes, playoff chances, or player performances, all in a regulated market where you can cash out at any time. For example, for the AFC Championship, it's between the Patriots and the Denver Broncos. They're not giving the Denver Broncos any chance with Jarrett Stidham starting in place of Bo Nix. But if you feel like they can pull a 2017 Nick Foles out of their hat, go in and get on all the action and go trade for Denver to win the AFC Championship. And it's not just game outcome, guys. There is anytime touchdown, first touchdown, 2+ touchdowns. You can get in on all the action, whether it's RJ Harvey, Stephon Diggs, or anybody that you can think of regarding the Denver Broncos and the New England Patriots. You can go and trade for one of these guys. And then it's not just that, it is wins over 6.5 points, over 40.5 points scored. Any sort of thing that you can think of is right there for the taking on Kalshi. It is genuinely a smarter way to use your sports or news knowledge, and you can close positions whenever you want to. So download Kalshi with the link in the description, and don't forget to use the code DIGESTNFL to get your $20 bonus. And thank you once again to Kalshi for sponsoring this video. And for everyone else, let's get back to this video. And as we break down this offensive coordinator search for the Philadelphia Eagles, it all starts with Howie Roseman. Howie Roseman is the one who is going to be conducting all of these interviews, and we just got a recent report surrounding another guy who is going to be interviewing for the offensive coordinator position. If you could tell by the tone of my voice regarding this episode of Eagles Digest, it's not a good one. It's not someone who I really want the Eagles to hire as their offensive coordinator. This is from Mike Garafolo on X saying the Eagles interviewed Matt Nagy for their offensive coordinator job today. Sources say Nagy, an intern and assistant for Andy Reid in Philly from 2008 to 2012, is currently exploring a few offensive coordinator options. So when we talk about the impact that Matt Nagy could have on this Eagles offense, it's really up in the air because he didn't call plays in Kansas City. That was Andy Reid, who was the mastermind behind the eventual, back-to-back Super Bowl champions and the dynasty that he was able to call plays and really be an effective play caller. Eagles fans know of Andy Reid. We obviously have had him as our head coach, for many years before he went to Kansas City and had all that success. So we obviously know how much of an impact that Andy Reid can have on the Eagles, on the Eagles moving forward, because, Doug Peterson came from Andy Reid and then he was the eventual head coach for the Philadelphia Eagles. So there is that connection with Andy Reid and the Philadelphia Eagles, even after almost 2 decades when Andy Reid got fired. But, I digress. Regarding Matt Nagy, when he called plays in Chicago, it really got stale quick. And he was one of the guys who I just was not expecting that the Eagles would go after as an offensive coordinator, because there's a lot of guys who have been able to call plays for a couple of years and have been on the up and up to try to get an offensive coordinator type of job. And you're thinking with Philadelphia, with all the weapons that the Eagles are having, that should be a prime position for people to go in. But when it comes to guys that the Eagles have interviewed so far. This was the interview so far that the Eagles have had. Josh Grizzard, the former Bucks offensive coordinator that I did a video on, Jim Bob Cooter, the former Colts offense coordinator who has experience play calling, but he hasn't been able to crack that offensive coordinator job in a prominent type of role. Mike Kafka, former Giants interim head coach slash offensive coordinator for the New York Giants. Zach Robinson, the former Falcons offensive coordinator. Now Matt Nagy, the former Chiefs offense coordinator, and Brian Dable, the former Giants head coach. And the reason why I have an asterisk right next to Brian Dable is that we learned about the news regarding Brian Dable not wanting to go to the Philadelphia Eagles. He would rather go to the Tennessee Titans as the offensive coordinator, or he would go to the Buffalo Bills if they offer him a position as their head coach. So very scary scenarios when you're looking at the offensive coordinator so far. I definitely think that out of all of these guys, I would go with Mike Kafka or Zach Robinson. I think those are probably the best bets in getting and elevating Jalen Hurts, elevating this Eagles offense with Saquon Barkley, AJ Brown, and DeVonta Smith, because, Mike Kafka, former quarterback, I mentioned it before, he can work with Jalen Hurts to get the best out of him. He was able to get the best out of Jackson Dart last season in a little bit of short spurts with the New York Giants. And then Zach Robinson, he was able to really help out Kirk Cousins, even though he was regressing badly. He was helping out him and Bijan Robinson, and had that Falcons team, that Falcons offense looking really good down the stretch. They didn't make it to the playoffs, but they were a very good, type of offense that you didn't really want to see if they were able to get in the playoffs. So both of those guys are my number one and number two, because, right now we look at, the ability that Mike McDaniel for the former Miami Dolphins head coach, went to the Los Angeles Chargers as the offense coordinator, and Brian Dable, they would both have full autonomy over the offense. That's what was reported by Jeff McLean if they were going to be hired as the Eagles offense coordinator. So the Eagles are going to have to pivot now. They're going to have to pivot regarding these new offense coordinator candidates. And, when we talk about the position like Matt Nagy, he has a ton of coaching experiences from Anthony DeBona on X, talking about how he was born in New Jersey. So he has that sort of Eagles connection when he was hired with Andy Reid. He has experience working with Nick Sirianni. He has experience working with Vic Fangio. So there is that connection there, which is kind of, something that I don't really think would work in Philadelphia, because he hasn't been able to call plays in a while. And the number one thing I'm saying about why I don't want Matt Nagy is because he couldn't work out with Kansas City Chiefs and he wasn't calling plays. That's not a good sign. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs, they had a lot of regression from their team going to, 3 straight Super Bowls. But at the end of the day, if they weren't wanting to bring Matt Nagy back and he's trying to go after a head coaching job or an offensive coordinator, he has also said that he doesn't want to call plays as a CEO type of head coach. So why would we bring him in at an interview if he doesn't even want to call plays? So I think it's just a waste of an interview, and it's something where we're kind of building this as like connection to Philly, but I would not want to have him as the offense coordinator. A little bit more about why I wouldn't have him as the offense coordinator. This was from 2020. This was from Nick Shook around the NFL, was just kind of diving deep on what the problems was with Matt Nagy with the Chicago Bears, saying Chicago had gotten off to a hot start thanks to a defense that held opponents to less than 24 points in all, but one of their Bears' first 6 games. The offense, on the other hand, hadn't held up its end of the bargain, providing the viewing public with legitimate cause for concern. The definition of insanity seems ready to be applied to the Bears' offensive proceedings if they don't turn things around soon. They currently rank 29th in yards per game, 31st in yards per play, 32nd in rushing yards, and 21st in passing. Folks will want to point the finger at quarterback Nick Foles, but the team's issues are systemic. And when we look at that, you might as well have just kept Kevin Patullo. You might as well just kept him, because you're not going to get anything else out of Matt Nagy as your offensive coordinator moving forward. I mean, this is something where we're looking at the candidates right now. There isn't a proven type of guy who can go in there and plug and play and the Eagles go back to the Super Bowl. This is going to be a grind. And a lot of teams and a lot of coordinators are looking at the Philadelphia Eagles offensive coordinator spot as a do or die type of position. You either do a great job and the Eagles go all the way to the Super Bowl and they win it, or you don't do a great job and either the Eagles lose in the playoffs or you don't even get to the playoffs and you're fired the next year. So it's very a big bipolar type of position. There's no job security when it comes to the offensive coordinator position in Philadelphia. But if someone is wanting to take a risk and they want to go to a team like the Eagles and try to win a championship and elevate their career like Kellen Moore and Shane Steichen did, there is evidence for that. So I definitely think that there is a better candidate than Matt Nagy, but I want to know what you guys think regarding Matt Nagy and him as the offense coordinator. How frustrated would you be with Matt Nagy as the Eagles OC in 2026? Comment your thoughts down below. Let me know what you think regarding Matt Nagy interviewing for the Philadelphia Eagles offensive coordinator position. I think this is just the Eagles doing their due diligence. I hope that it's the Eagles just doing their due diligence, because at the end of the day, if Matt Nagy is our OC, it's going to be a lot of problems that are going to really connect back to Nick Sirianni and this Eagles offense. And it's not going to be any sort of creativity that I'm going to see at all. But, hopefully the Eagles are going to do their due diligence and get the right guy in here to have a really good offense for 2026, because we're going to need it if we want to see another Lombardi in the near future. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And as always, go Birds.